This is a regular meeting of the Finance Committee of the Ascension Parish Council. I forgot my bang. Brian, will you please lead us in the invocation and pledge?
Heavenly Father, we just thank you for bringing us all here on this night, Lord. We know that every decision that is made in this parish affects so many lives. We ask that you would just guide our minds and guide our tongues tonight as we make these important decisions. And Lord, I just pray for the safety of every member of this room going home tonight and for all their families. We just ask for your mighty blessing on every one of them. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All of the councilmen and women are present. I do have a chair's addition tonight that requires a unanimous vote to add an item we will number 17 that is surplus items for auction.
So moved, Madam Chairman. Second.
Any objections? Then the item will be added as item number 17. I want to remind the audience that if you wish to speak on any issue, please come up and sign in now, and you'll have 3 minutes at the appropriate time to speak on the issue. Okay. I've been advised that I need to make that item number 16A. Anybody want to?
That's good.
Is that good for everybody? Okay, thank you. My first chair's addition, I said I was not going to allow any, so I've broken my promise to myself in the first 6 months. As we move along, our first agenda item will be item number 5, discussion regarding the St. James Juvenile Detention Center, the millage statute, and we would like to welcome to this chamber a gentleman who's not unfamiliar with it, Judge Kleber.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Before we get started, I have one question for you. Does Turner show up on time for the start of all your meetings?
Yes, sir, he does.
He hasn't been in time in court in 30 years. I was just curious.
All the time, Judge,
All the time.
He
And
must
we
respect
can-
y'all when he respects the court, I guess.
We can issue an executive order that he show up in your court on time, sir.
Yeah, I was asked to come speak a little bit about the St. James Parish Juvenile Detention Center. I don't know how much you all are familiar with the center itself. It has kind of a history, goes back probably 12, 15 years, I imagine. And it's always been a losing proposition for St. James, basically. And through the years, I think Ascension, with the juveniles, hadn't utilized it a whole lot, except for the more serious, violent type felonies, a few, sexual type crimes and murders and stuff. And for the most part, I think y'all use a lot of home incarceration here with the ankle bracelets. And recently, the state, or it might be the feds, I really don't know who, came in and said, y'all need to upgrade the facility. I think y'all familiar with all that part, and that's going to cause a whole bunch of money. And so I think they got together, about 8 or 10 parishes, tried to do a little joint conglomerate to try to do the funding to raise the standards so it can stay open. And I was asked to come here and try to explain to you the importance as a judge of the detention center. Now, that's kind of like, I guess in a sense, a difficult thing to do because it appears to be rather obvious. Unfortunately, now the ankle bracelets, in my personal opinion, have almost become a badge of honor to a lot of our juveniles. I think you put the ankle bracelet on, they go to school and they brag about, look at me, I broke into this house, I broke into 6 houses, and I got an ankle bracelet, kind of deal. And the other thing it does, even in the less serious cases, the juveniles nowadays, they're there for one reason. They don't have any respect. They don't have respect for authority, they don't have respect for themselves, they don't have respect for the court or anybody. So it's kind of hard I'm at somewhat an advantage because I handle the juveniles, all of the juveniles in St. James Parish, because the theory is that a judge should handle the same juveniles, the same family continuously. So rather than allocate the juvenile cases like we do most cases, I handle everything in St. James. Judge LeBlanc's now going to handle everything in Assumption. And the 3 judges here plus the parish court judge, they kind of divide up Ascension. And the reason why I say that is in St. James, if a juvenile gets a little smart alecky with you, I can say lock him up because I got a detention center there that St. James is running. Y'all don't have that. So when you get one of these kids appear before you that's 15 years old, and they told the police where to go, they told the mama where to go, and now they're telling the judge where to go, and they kind of sit there and say, now what you going to do about it, Judge? Well, it kind of leaves you basically helpless to try to do anything when you don't even have a facility to put them in. And that's just a little small example of how important it is. Now, bottom line, let's face it, comes down to dollars. I mean, it's all a money issue. I'm not here at all to tell you how to spend your money. But government has a function, and this is my personal opinion. I'm not speaking on behalf of the court when I'm talking about this function. To me, government has a function, and the function is to provide services that the private sector cannot afford. Private sector doesn't get involved unless it's profitable. The Juvenile Detention Center, I think right now, has been running a deficit in St. James over and above their millage of somewhere around $300,000–400,000 a year, I think. And that's on its current operation. So is it important for you, the citizens? Absolutely, because probably today, I was in criminal court today, before I got here, in Ascension Parish. I had 67 cases just today, and I would say a third of them were under 20 years old. So they're in between that. They've come through the juvenile system, and now they just graduate into the adult system. And I'm going to be quite frank with you. The state is cutting our services so bad. We have almost nothing. We have no services or to put in place to send these kids or to do anything with them. So I think, it's kind of like y'all the last stop almost. If you don't do what we need to do to keep the facility running, there is no place to send them. I think you just read in the paper where Jetson had 2 escapes up there. Well, I can just about guarantee you they're going to come in, they're going to close Jetson, they're going to privatize something and all this stuff. And you just don't have the facilities. I mean, and I think y'all pay $130 a day right now to use the facility, which I don't know what your annual budget on that is, plus with the incarceration, and I don't know how much money, I'm not here to talk about the finances per se, I don't know anything about it, I'm not going to lie to you. But as far as the center itself being important, it's probably one of the most important things you have now. What do you do when you have a kid that's missed school for let's say 30 days? And I don't want to pick on women, but it's a girl, say 15 years old. And they come to court and you tell the mom, you say, Mama, if that child didn't go to school, I'm putting you in jail. Every day she misses from now on. So the next week the mama calls you up, Judge, I'm not going to jail. She won't go. Now you want her, come get her. Where am I put her? Well, if I got a facility, I can say, okay, you're in contempt, you don't want to go to school, you're going to jail. And that does have a little effect, believe it or not, because they don't like staying in there. But right now, they just laugh it off and say, well, what you going to do about it? So there's no way to enforce what we're trying to do. You can have the carrot and the stick, we don't have a stick. Anybody have any questions?
I do.
And I didn't mean to overstep your bounds.
That's quite all right. I'm ready to go
there.
there, too. I was kind of getting my thoughts together on some questions I might have, but Councilman Kluwat, please take.
Judge, thank you for coming. We've heard from Judge Holdridge a little while back, and I know we've been talking to...
He's a little more articulate speaker than I am, so I apologize.
I wouldn't say that. But basically, in talking to the administration in St. James, the dire need to do something there. And we appreciate you coming forward. And I know people in law enforcement, and you talked about how disrespectful it is to the judges. It's equally disrespectful to the people in law enforcement.
I had a call, we on duty, we take turns being on duty, and anytime they want to hold a juvenile, they need to call the They need to call the duty judge to get authority to hold it. I got a call 2 weeks ago. Juvenile ran away 3 times that night. Beat up the mama. Officers at the house. I said, Judge, she's beating on me. She's beating on her mama. She's running out the door. I can't hold her back. I said, call St. James. You know, if you got a place, put her. But I mean, that's the kind of stuff you get. I mean, 2 o'clock in the morning, you got a 14-year-old girl that's wrecking havoc. And if you don't have a place to put her, you can't put her in an adult jail. That's just some of the little instances that we have.
Councilman Shake Snyder.
Judge, thank you also for doing this. We know how important this is. What are our options, and what, you know, I know it's a St. James facility, and I know they've partnered with a number of other parishes. What you're asking us to do is to join the partnership in order to try to keep it open, or supply, you know, what exactly
I'm not
is needed
asking
for
you.
us to
I'm
do?
not asking you anything per se.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to explain to you the importance of the facility. I'm not going to get involved in your policy making. I mean, that's not why I'm here. I can tell you it's important. I can tell you if St. James, if this deal doesn't go through, it's closing, and then we're all going to be in a problem.
What are some things that we can do in addition to that? Or what are some other things can we, in order to move forward, even make things better? I mean, what do you look at that needs to be done down the line?
You don't have time for me to go in that stump.
Okay. Can we?
I met with.
We would like to be educated a little bit.
I had 3 or 4 meetings, thanks to Senator Amadei, with the Office of Juvenile Justice. Mary Livers is the Secretary of Office of Juvenile Justice. 2 years ago, I started meeting with them. I said, let's take the juvenile facility in St. James, because it's been in trouble for a while. I said, let's take all this funding that y'all putting for all these little piecemeal programs, little mental health here, drug treatment here. I said, let's put it, LSU, Dr. His name escapes me. He's the head of the adolescent psychiatric for the entire LSU system, New Orleans. He did a whole plan for us, a staffing plan. The facility will be staffed with like a psychiatrist, a psychologist, about 4 social workers, a couple of teachers. And let's say it came out to $1.1 million, not counting the facility cost, but you know, the labor cost for running. Like $1.1 million. So I went to her and I said, look, y'all spending in Ascension, Assumption, and St. James X amount of dollars now. And we get no, you know, they say, okay, we're spending X amount for St. James on mental health. But the mental health is in La Place, which is 20 miles away from Carmen. You get no transportation. So the people coming in that need mental health, well, how I get there, Judge? It's 20 miles away. So I went to them, I said, look, let's take this facility and let's make it a treatment, like a halfway house group home. And I said, when they come into juvenile court, I'm not only going to order the child there to stay there overnight, but we're going to order the parents to go there and get parenting classes, get drug treatment. And if they don't improve, we'll take the kids out of the home. Well, we've got to stop this somewhere. And she basically laughed at me. The bottom line was, we got all these great programs. I don't know if y'all heard the term, the Missouri model that they're trying to follow. You know, we're doing this, we're doing that. And since then, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. They cut this, they cut this, they cut that. And we don't have hardly anything left.
I'd like to see us have some meetings where we can discuss this issue in particular.
Because there's a fair amount of funding that was going,
And
but it's all piece, you know, if you
Yeah.
throw 50,000 over here and you put 25,000 over there and 100,000 over there, by the time you get the program started, the money's spent.
Mhm.
So I said, let's put it in one bucket. Let's go over here, everything you spend in Ascension, Assumption, and St. James on juvenile services, family services. And I said, just give me 3 years. Let you know, LSU, I mean, I wasn't talking about a bunch of little flunkies here. I'm talking to, you know, Osowski's his name, Dr. Osowski. Who, I mean, he's a national known expert on, you know, children, psychiatric stuff and all. I said, and they were willing, they came in with the plan. Couldn't get in the air.
Councilman Joseph.
Thanks. I guess, I mean, Me and Mr. Kluart, we heard the parish president from St. James when he was talking about this program at the conference in Homer. And I think basic, what they're looking for is funding. I mean, we know we do put funding there for certain amount of kids, but we really don't, I don't think it's budget to a certain dollar amount. I don't know,
I
Gwen.
think y'all pay by the day.
So much a day.
Whatever child, how many kids y'all put there, y'all pay by the day.
For clarity, O'Neill, would you please explain how Ascension Parish works with the St. James system in the juvenile detention center for the purposes of clarity?
We pay per day. In 2009, we spent $308,696. In 2010, it was $229,490. 2011, $341,302. This year, your projected cost right now is $462,720, and that's based on the $130 a day. I think if you add, I think the judge, what they talked about, if
And that
you have to
doesn't-
meet
that-
all these new standards,
Oh, there's no
like
telling.
$240 a day.
There's no telling where it's gonna go.
That's the projection, I think, is $240 a day. When St. James was initiated, which was 15 years ago, Ascension was part of the group that did it. The state, when they created St. James Youth Parish Center, they authorized the surrounding parishes to participate, and what they did was authorize the parish council to approve a one meal tax by 2/3 vote of the council. Anything's more than that, you need to go to the people, but they can do it. The parish president asked me to put this, he asked this be put on the agenda because he wanted to let y'all know that right now you're about $200 and something thousand over budget. It comes out of your general fund. If the price goes to $240 a day, it's the cost. You have no alternative. You're mandated to pay the cost of juvenile justice for the Ascension Parish juveniles that are placed at the facility. And so that's the reason he put it on, and he asked the judge to come explain to y'all what the facility does.
And the monies, I don't mean to interrupt you, but the monies you're spending are for lack of a better term, sort of the hardcore crime. It's not, that's not the little stuff I'm talking about, like, you know, shove it where the sun don't shine, Judge, you know? I can't send them there 3 days. They're not letting us do that, you know?
So that's what he just wanted to present that to y'all, that and ask you, decide, let y'all make the decision of what y'all want to do. But y'all have the authority to do that, to pass a mill, and to fund this, because otherwise it's coming out of your general fund right now. And you have no control over the amount of money spent, because whatever occurs, it's mandated that you pay it. The parish government, the governing authority has to pay that cost. And that was all that he asked me, he has to be put on an agenda, and we asked the judge to come explain to you. But that's the situation financially. Right now, you're looking at about $450,000 to $500,000, and you're coming out of your general fund if the price doesn't go up. If the price goes up, you're talking probably $600,000 to $700,000.
Councilman Joseph.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes, sir.
I guess we got two questions here. Kent won't cheat on my time. My question is, for the ankle braces and all that is coming out the money that we're budget for right now, or that's a separate?
That ain't got nothing to do with St. James.
Yeah.
So, okay, all right. Or the municipalities, it's coming out of our budget, or it's coming out of the city's budget?
It is by law the debt of the parish, not the municipalities. The parish president had me research that, and they are your responsibility and not the municipalities.
But the money's only collected in the outlying areas, right?
No,
No,
nothing goes to one
no.
meal.
No, it's a
One meal
parish.
parish-wide.
Yeah, but that one meal's not being collected, correct?
Not being collected at all.
Right.
Yeah, Ascension Parish has never acted on that.
That's what I'm trying to get at. Right now, we haven't acted on the one meal tax that would be funded by everyone for the parish.
Right.
The money is only coming out of the general fund, which only is supplied by members outside the rural areas. So the towns, Gonzales is not participating, neither is Donaldsonville. So a lot of people in outlying areas are borne an unfair tax, so to speak. So that's something that needs to be adjusted.
Councilman Lambert.
Yeah, if we go for this one meal
I guess it's a little touchy situation, but been on the council for 13 years, and this came to us several times before. And the parish was looking at building their own juvenile detention center at one time. If we're going to collect a 1 mil property tax from all our residents of this parish, Ms. Gwen can maybe tell us what this 1 mil would bring parish-wide. I don't know how much money we talking at St. James to upgrade it. You saying a lot of money, is it? You know,
I just heard it was millions,
millions?
millions.
Yes.
And if they didn't get it, it was closing.
So you
They-
might
they
have,
couldn't do it on their own. And there's a couple of parishes. It took- it
So,
took-
Can we get the answer?
but Ms. Gwen,
yeah, Ms.
just-
Gwen, can you give me a 1 mil parish-wide?
In 2012, it would yield, according to the assessor's tax roll, 921,722 parish-wide. Rural only, outside the municipalities, 814,909.
Now, I don't think you'd be authorized to pass it by council to start your own. This is a specific statute that was created for St. James Parish Youth Center for those who participated in that fund.
Okay.
Right.
Because that's what the statute doesn't provide otherwise.
Does anyone else have any questions? Because I would like to make a proposal,
Yes,
if I may.
just real quick. I got a
Sure,
question.
Mr. Cluett.
O'Neill, give us that annual cost. You'd had it. I just didn't write it down. If it goes to $240 a day, and it will.
God, I wouldn't know, I mean, my math, but it's 130 right now, and your projected
So it'd be
cost is
double.
462.
Basically doubled.
Yeah, close to double.
800, 900, your 1 mil gone.
All right, that's what,
But that ain't helping them with any upgrades, that's just paying for
It's just paying for what you're doing now.
that's basically what we're putting out on juvenile
That's what you,
services.
if the amount goes to 240 a day, then that's probably what you would spend this year on that,
Yes.
out of your general fund.
And I just want to close with a quick observation is, I don't know, Judge, you have your own opinions, but I guess in certain sectors, I see state and federal government looking towards, not necessarily encouraging, but looking towards privatizing rather than people having their own control over their monies and their facilities. That's just my observation. So maybe we need to talk to our state guys and our federal guys.
Privatization is going to blow up in our state's face.
Yes.
Councilman Johnson?
O'Neill.
Yes, sir.
So what's the difference in services, I guess, from a cost-wise? We're talking about it being 130 today, going to 240, I think is what you said, or if the changes go into effect. So that's just the cost of housing the inmates over there at that point in time. I guess so. From a status of services that are going to be provided, like the judge was talking about, is this?
It's
that
just the
gonna go-
incarceration fee. It's going to be what we'd have to pay for someone to be incarcerated there. It doesn't change anything. I don't know that. That's federal requirements on juvenile facilities. I don't know what they would.
Well, I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. Is that additional funding going to go towards the changes that have to be made at the facility, like we were talking about? Is that just going to be for the services difference, or is that going to be towards helping them update the facility to the new standards?
All that I'm not, I don't know any of that. All the parish president wanted you to know that if they go to that amount, that money comes out of your general fund.
Right, but what we're trying to figure out, and I kind of heard a couple comments up here, is that even if we enacted this 1 mil tax, it's basically going to be a wash to cover what we're talking about our fees are going to be for this year, unless, especially if they go up to that $240 a month rate. So does that?
$240 a day.
A day.
A day rate, I'm sorry, $240 a day rate per inmate. So I mean, does that get them out of the woods to the point of where they would actually have the money to keep open? Because it sounds like even if we did go up to that amount, they wouldn't necessarily be able to stay open.
I don't want to speak
I can't, yeah.
for the St. James Parish because I haven't been on the full discussions. I'm thinking, that gets dangerous when I think, but I'm thinking that they're going to
Can't make no money.
at some point under this deal, the parish would then commit to pay for X amount of beds, full or unfull, at the 240, at that rate, and that gives them the bonding capacity and all to
To do the upgrades to the facility?
I'm thinking that's, but don't hold me to that, but that's,
And Councilman.
I think they have to get commitments, you
Right.
got commitments of use.
And from what you were saying earlier, they're planning on bringing in more parishes than just the original
Right.
3 that were there. So, I mean, that money,
Unless they changed the capacity, which I never heard they were, I think right now it holds about 84 kids. At 84 kids, if it's full, they could break even. But it's never been full because of the per-day cost is so high. Like, at one point, there was some discussions of, I think there's 8 pods over there with 11, 10, it's like 8 different little units. Where Ascension would just lease one, y'all staff it, and it's yours. That kind of deal. Now, all that's changed because of these new upgrades. And what's kind of bad with the government, and when this thing was built, it was supposed to qualify for Medicaid funds, where because of the mental health and all, Medicaid would pay for this. Well, before it was finished, the Medicaid regulations went up to whatever could get approved for that funding. So that kind of killed the whole deal from Jump Street as far as paying for itself.
I guess that's kind of maybe some of the questions we need answered as far as the difference in the dollar amounts and, what's the status as far as bringing these other parishes on board and, being able to keep the facility open and paying for the necessary upgrades. Is that going to be covered by any action we would take as far as this one mill is concerned?
That's a great question. I think it's too early to tell. What I would like to do is take this under advisement, having thanked the judge for bringing this to our attention and O'Neill for elaborating. And I would like to suggest that we meet, certainly I will organize that in a meeting with the sheriff of Ascension Parish, the district attorney of Ascension Parish, and any interested members of this body who would like to evaluate fully what this, imposing this kind of tax on our citizens for the benefit of this detention center would mean. So, Judge Kleber, I thank you so much for bringing this to us, and it's a great honor to have you here, sir. O'Neill, thank you for, and I hope that will satisfy everybody.
Let me volunteer this.
Sure.
Which I shouldn't probably do either. Y'all meet twice a month or once a month? The Finance Committee.
Finance meets once a month.
I can try to get maybe Parish President Roussel to come.
That would
See,
be
I
wonderful.
don't know, and I wasn't asked to get the mechanics of this new conglomeration, whatever you call it.
Sure.
So I really don't. I feel kind of dumb when you ask me these questions, but I just never.
Well, this was
Not part of
strictly
the
for
deal.
information only. It was,
So, you don't
need
that's
to
a good,
feel
he has some good questions. Does the 240 a day take, does that solve anything? Or is the facility still going to close?
yeah.
I mean-
We have a long way to go before we can answer all those questions.
But I think what your Parish President is saying is, even right now, we got a $400,000.
Yeah, we're over.
So he's probably
Absolutely.
like, at least give me a $500,000 now. We do the other half later. But I don't want to speak for him.
Yes, Councilman Shake Snyder.
We meet quarterly with the river parishes and in a meeting, and that might be a good venue to have all of that would be everybody, most of the people that's involved in this. And it would be a good forum to have where everybody gets together and people interested could discuss that. Maybe we can put that on the agenda for that meeting and, have any other meetings, but
Right.
get the other parishes involved to find out what exactly is going on.
Well, I would not be comfortable with moving forward without speaking to the sheriff, the district attorney, and certainly with the parish presidents and interested members of this committee. So if we can thank the judge again for being here, and we will, having taken this under advisement, move on to item number 6.
All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir.
Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
Monthly contract report, Ms. Kimlin Bailey Lomas. Those are in your packet for your review.
The monthly contract report for June, that's 2012. It was in your packets, to give you a moment to look over them. 22 for the last month. And those are the contracts that we actually have entered. They've been signed, executed, and they're ready for payment as soon as it's presented to finance. We've also listed the approval by council on the report, along with the funds that were CDBG.
Are there any questions, gentlemen? Councilman?
Yeah, we got, I'm looking at about 5 or 6 $65,000 engineering groups. Could you come out and elaborate a little bit on that? It doesn't really state anything other than 65,000 each.
Okay, those were on various projects. Several were for engineering, and the others were, let's see, I know,
I think she's referring to the 3 that we did for engineering support services, and that's for various support items that we may need in the engineering department throughout the year to have them do a task to get something processed for us quickly that requires engineering. And we had selected 3 firms through the process so that we have a round robin, kind of spread some of the workload, and if there's any conflicts of interest, we can work through those as well.
All right.
Any other questions, gentlemen? Then we will move on to item number 7, an overview of the Section 8 Rental Assistant Program with Martha Collins and Mr. Robert Macedo. Hi,
Thank
Ms.
you, Madam
Martha.
Chairman. We were asked to present to the Finance Committee an overview of the Section 8 program. Mr. Roberto Macedo is the grant administrator for this program. We do not do that through our grants office. So what I'd like to do is adhere to Mr. Roberto and let him give you a little brief overview and then answer any questions.
Madam Chairman, members of the Finance Committee, my name is Roberto Macedo. I've been administering Section 8 programs for several parishes in South Louisiana. I've been in business, according to Mr. Pierce, too long now. But at any rate, the Section 8 program is a rental assistance program that is totally financed by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. It provides assistance to families, primarily elderly and disabled folks, as well as very low and extremely low citizens of Ascension Parish. It is a program that provides rental assistance based on a formula that requires that the family pay a certain percentage of the rent based on their income. One of the key elements in the program is the waiting list, or the list from where we draw the names for the next ones that are going to be assisted. The waiting list is set up through a 1-800 number in which, after advertising in the official journal, families or interested individuals call into this 1-800 number and they are placed in the waiting list. We record the day and time of the call, and from that list, as vouchers or spaces become available, then we go through the procedures to place that family under this rental assistance. The parish has a maximum number of vouchers for the entire parish, 87. And I'm talking about the rural areas, including the city of Gonzales. The city of Donaldsonville has its own program. So that excludes within the 87 vouchers available. So as you can see, it's a very competitive program. Generally, once the family is placed and they receive the rental assistance, unless they commit fraud or they decide because of their finances that they're going to leave the program, a lot of the folks stay there for quite a while. This has been an issue that has been brought up many years or many times during the years It's not something that the parish can decide since it's a federal program. As long as the family qualifies, they receive the assistance. Like I said, it's primarily to help elderly and disabled folks on fixed income. The majority are elderly and disabled, but we also have large families, primarily single mothers. Any questions?
Yes, sir. What are the qualifications or criterion to apply for a voucher that exists today?
When we place the ad in the paper for the call for the 1-800 number, anybody can call in. Somebody from the city of New Orleans can call in. However, the first requirement would be if that particular family is not from within the parish, they would have to move to the parish of Ascension and be in the program for 1 year. After that 1 year, they can take that voucher and move to New Orleans or move to Baton Rouge, or, you know, the portability of the program allows the family to move around. The other requirement is the income. They have to meet certain income requirements based on what the federal government publishes for each year based on family size. There's a requirement for a family of 1, 2, 3, the different categories of income that the family has to fall under. Eventually, when all that is checked out, we do a criminal background also for the family. It is their responsibility, once they receive the voucher, to find a place where to live, and we conduct the inspection of the unit, make sure that the unit is standard. In some cases, if the unit fails in some way, then we require the landlords to make the necessary repairs to bring that unit up to standard. But it's basically a income program. If you are of certain income, you do not qualify to participate.
I want to make sure I understand. There are only 87 such vouchers available in the Parish of Ascension on the West Bank.
Correct.
Okay.
On the East
Well,
On the East Bank, excuse me.
Rural area.
and rural areas.
And in the rural areas. So
Right.
everything in Ascension Parish other than Donaldsonville. Okay. There's only 87 such vouchers that exist.
correct.
Okay. And in order to get one of those vouchers, you have to have met a certain criterion.
And waited a long time, because generally that waiting list moves very slow.
Okay. So I think my concern has been that we are often bombarded with language that every time we have efforts in the parish to rezone or build a subdivision, and the next thing I know, I'm hearing, and so are my constituents, that we're going to have Section 8 housing here in this subdivision, or we're going to have Section 8 housing in this apartment complex. How would that be possible if there are only 87 such vouchers available?
It's just misunderstanding. They don't understand the program. The Section 8 program is not a complex, it's not a unit. It is the person that has the voucher and chooses where to live. So there's no such thing as a Section 8 complex or as a Section 8 unit. You may rent for a year to a Section 8 voucher holder, and the next year say, I don't want to participate anymore. So it's Section 8, and I can see your concern, it's sort of taken 360 degrees. When this program started many years back, nobody wanted to participate. The landlord said, oh no, federal government, oh no. Then it picked up, there was big demand, and now it kind of, like you said, you know, the word goes around and all of a sudden Section 8 is not a good thing. But there's no Section 8 complexes, there's no Section 8 homes. It is a Section 8 voucher that the family takes and picks the unit where they want to live if the landlord agrees to it and if the unit is standard.
And if I were to ask you, sir, who owns property in Ascension Parish that might be used as Section 8 housing. Could you tell me?
You want actual names of landlords participating?
I might.
Well, that information is available with the Finance Department. They receive each 25th of the month. My office sends a list to the parish that lists the landlord and the corresponding tenant, okay, and how much the rent is, how much the portion is the responsibility of the family, and how much the program pays. But in answer to your question is any landlord.
It's
We have
purely
com-
transparent.
Yes.
And how long they been on the program?
The monthly report does not have how long they've been in the program. No.
You have that information.
Oh, yeah, that information is available to anybody, really.
If the gentlemen here have any other questions, I would certainly be willing. I asked Mr. Roberto to come today because I certainly did not understand this myself. I don't think the vast majority of my constituents understand it, and it was important to me that I do understand it, and I thank you so much on behalf of my constituents and myself. Questions?
Roberto, thank you for coming. How many, do you have records of how many from outside of Ascension Parish are coming into Ascension Parish with vouchers now?
I would say with this new, well, it's not new anymore. Portability was not existing, a few years back. You were from Ascension Parish, you received your voucher, you lived here. With the portability, it's now nationwide, but I would say that perhaps 10% come from other parishes. But remember what I said at the beginning.
And do we have more than 10% go from this parish to other parishes, or do our state?
Probably it's about the same percentage too, because there are families from Ascension Parish that originally started the program here, and for whatever reasons, they want to take their voucher and go to New York, if that's what they want
So
to do.
it's pretty safe to say it's probably under 100 that are in the voucher program in Ascension Parish, actually using the program?
At one given time, it's less than that.
Yeah, well,
Right.
okay. All right.
But
just
through
an
the
idea.
years, this program has helped hundreds of families with part of the rent through the years, yes.
Councilman Joseph?
Mr. Mercedes, I know we went through this here a couple of years ago, and we fine-tuned it a little bit with senior citizens, handicapped senior citizens getting first priority, and that worked pretty well. But you brought up the city of Donaldsonville. How many vouchers the city of Donaldsonville had? And I know one time.
The city of Donaldsonville has 95 vouchers.
Okay. So that gives us about 170-something voucher for the whole parish. City
Correct.
of Gonzales have any?
No, sir.
Because our population grew over the last century, these numbers haven't changed yet. Are they going to change?
Not with the current federal deficit. In fact,
So we clearly, I'm like the chairman up there, is pretty much this parish here really don't have a Section 8 property with Section 8 housing, because it's not, it's just a rent agreement between a homeowner and a person that have that voucher.
correct.
So we're under 200 of the whole parish of a population of 108, so we're about less than 20%. 2%? Help y'all. I know less than that. So, I'm like the chairman here. As soon as we say public housing or low moderate income housing and everything like that, that is not Section 8. That is just a low a way to do financing. That's all that is. We're hard-working people in this community have a way the government assists them with financing of that home. That's not a Section 8 home. And I think we need to stop scaring the public like that. We do that a lot here. The first chance we have a subdivision and they put a $160,000 home there, The federal government say that's low moderate income home. If you make $30,000, $50,000, it'll fit your income for it. I hate to say it, but it's not, and I'm like you. I just hope we stop stereotyping. Section 8 home, it's not that. There's a hard-working family out there trying to pay for a home. They just have a different way of financing, that's all. That's all I have, question. Thank you.
Councilman Satterly.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Macedo, thank you so much for coming this afternoon. Like our chairman, this has been very educational and something I need desperately. I have just a couple of quick questions. You mentioned a waiting list, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Could you size that sort of for me? Like, how many people would be on that list right now waiting to receive Section 8 rental vouchers?
As of today, we have 47 families in the waiting list. The federal government recommends that we do not keep a waiting list longer than 50 families, because at that rate, perhaps somebody that called on April 1st of 2012 would not be number one until April of 2014.
So if someone calls in and it's the 51st applicant, you don't put it in the waiting list, is that?
Correct.
Okay. My second question, could you also size about how much money is involved? Like, what's the worth of a voucher?
Depending on the bedroom size, by the way, hadn't been any increase in vouchers. Not only that, but for the first time, as of October of last year, the federal government nationwide reduced the fair market rent for all federal programs, meaning that if the fair market rent for a two-bedroom in Ascension Parish was $750, the government said now it's going to be $700. Meaning that by doing that, they're reducing the cost of this program nationwide. And the objective is, again, with the federal deficit, they're trying to slow down. But as far as your question is concerned, it goes from a one-bedroom in the vicinity of about $500 to a four-bedroom about $1,100.
Those are monthly figures.
That would be, right, that would be the fair market rent, which includes the contract rent plus a utility allowance that is figured out depending on the amenities of the unit.
Okay. And my final question, sir, and again, I thank you greatly. Are there any strings or requirements that the HUD folks put on us here in Ascension Parish for these total, I guess, Mr. Joseph figured 182 vouchers when you include Donaldsonville and the rest of the parish on the East Bank?
There's no special restrictions other than what the federal regulations are that are nationwide. So you've got the program, all the rules and regulations for the Section 8 program in Ascension Parish are the same as in the state of Alabama and so forth. So,
And just to be sure again, all of our assistance from the federal level is a function of these rental vouchers. There's no buildings involved here or anything. It's just landlords who would be willing to take these folks that need this housing.
that's correct. That's correct. Now, there is another program that is not available here. It's primarily in large municipalities and large metropolitan areas. It's what is called a project-based Section 8 program. What we have is tenant-based Section 8. The project-based would be, say, the city of New Orleans. They receive so much money with the administrative fees earned by this program. They could build an apartment complex, and in that particular apartment complex, all the units are Section 8. Almost as a public housing, but not quite. But in Ascension Parish, it's strictly as a tenant-based, individual landlords.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Quick question.
Mr. Cluett.
Sir, you said there's no vouchers, say, in the other municipalities of Sorrento and Gonzales.
No, they participate. The federal government says that when there are no, for instance, Donaldsonville has its own program. They applied many years back.
Okay,
The other municipalities chose not to apply.
okay,
So those that do not have their own program, then they participate on the closest one. In this case would be the ones for Ascension Parish.
so in other words, Gonzales chose not to participate in the program, but somebody in Gonzales,
Yes,
an
sir.
apartment in Gonzales can participate in the parish program.
That's correct.
Someone that lived within the city limits of Gonzales within this program.
That's correct.
I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for an enlightening presentation. I appreciate it very much. It's certainly been an issue that I did not understand, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you on behalf of the council.
Thank you.
Moving right along, item number 8, MWH, amendment to the master contract for professional services. Mr. Bryan?
Yes, ma'am. The engineering department is requesting amendment with MWH to cover sewer design revisions necessary to accommodate utility conflicts with the Highway 42 widening project. It's two actually changes that had to be done, one for $9,559 and another one for $8,070, which brings the amended contract to $412,620. And this is an amended contract with those two revisions attached.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Moore, second by Councilman Dempsey Lambert. Any discussion?
Just a point of clarification, Brian, on this, if I'm not mistaken, this was something that other changes to the project forced changes to the sewer design, correct?
That's correct. And we have an agreement with DOTD to pay for those revisions that pertain to sewer.
Any further discussion? Councilman Sadler?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And to be sure, I'm looking at your Exhibits A and B in our packet. The LA DOTD are the folks that are primarily requiring these change orders.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Moving along to item number 9, AEDC incentive recommendations for Project Happy Corn. We welcome Mr. Mike Eads.
Good evening, committee members. We're pleased to come before you with a couple of opportunities tonight. First one being Project Happy Corn. And you have the summary in front of you. I'll give you a little refresher course on how we vet these projects under the Ascension Advantage program. And this comes in the form of a formal recommendation from the AEDC board. Number one criteria is this project competitive? Yes, it is. This company is in competition for a pool of capital that has been allocated by the company in North America, and they are seeking $1.2 billion. That was a B, to be spent here in Ascension Parish. The second criteria we look at is, do they qualify for either the Enterprise Zone or the Quality Jobs Program by the state of Louisiana? In this case, most certainly do qualify for the Quality Jobs, which is the program that requires a very well-paying job plus health care benefits. Then we get into the issue of what is the economic impact. You see there's a substantial impact over 10 years, the gross local product of about $443 million. That includes the multiplier factors of the jobs and the expenditures in the community, et cetera. Construction impacts, you see there, about 2,000 temporary construction jobs and $278 million in temporary wages. The capital investment profile, as you see there, is $1.2 million. You see the breakdown. In addition, the average inventory value is about $5 million. Monthly value is about $5 million. So our total direct parish revenues, and this includes all revenues to every tax recipient of the parish other than the sheriff, over the first 10 years, as you see, is about $28 million. And then if we get in just to the direct, which means to the parish government itself, you can see there you got about $17,000 in inventory taxes, and about 5.1 million are total, and that is excluding the recommended rebate. So you got a very good positive cash flow. The specific recommendation from the ADC to you is that the company be rebated 0.45 cents of your 1 cent sales tax for the construction materials and initial equipping of the project. Another thing we added in there this time is a recommendation that, as you recall, we've been recommending prior to this half a cent. The other 0.05 cents we are recommending be placed into an economic development Ascension Economic Development Corporation fund that would be held by Parish Finance Department in an interest-bearing account, and those funds would be able, upon the request of our board to the Finance Committee and ultimately the council, to be spent on a project-by-project basis. So that is a nuance of this recommendation that you haven't seen before. And by the way, just to be conservative, heretofore we have been giving you a 100% of hard cost number. In other words, if we recommended half a cent, it would be on the full hard cost, excluding the construction labor and engineering. We're trying to be a little more conservative, so the number you're looking at there is actually 75% of the hard cost times 0.45, and that is over 10 years, and it is adjusted for net present value. And that is the recommendation of the AEDC board to this committee.
Gentlemen. You may speak, Mr. Sadler.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You looked at me,
Sorry.
but you didn't verbalize anything.
I apologize.
That's fine. Mr. Eads, since it is a nuance, as you called it, or a new fund, could you maybe give me a few specific examples of what some of these new EDCF funds would be spent on?
Some of the things we thought about are sometimes we have challenges or opportunities, depending on where you look at them. Somebody needs a road constructed for their project. We have no source of funds for that locally. You don't have a source of funds for it locally. So that would be an example. And perhaps we could use those funds to leverage a grant. Sometimes a local match is required, whether it's a federal grant or a state grant for certain, whether it's water lines, roads, things like that. Site preparation could be utilized for a project, for certain site studies, that type of thing. Beyond that, I could see down the road if we needed to do a special research project on an opportunity or a market sector, that we might come to you and ask for funding for that on a one-time basis, just for example. I don't have a comprehensive list.
No, that's fine.
Right.
Any other questions? Councilman Johnson.
Mr. Eads, play devil's advocate here for a second, because I know it's one of the things we've talked about in the past is the funding mechanism for AEDC.
Right.
And I want to make sure I understand this correctly. We went from a full half cent to 45 cent rebate
Right.
on the sales tax. And then we'll also have this 5 cents in there for that fund for AEDC.
Yes, sir.
And I guess what I want to make sure I understand is that part of their incentive that they're getting still, or is that money? I guess what I'm trying to get around is that basically going a different way to get the funding from the parish for AEDC.
No, sir. It's reducing the amount of rebate that the company's going to get, and placing that 0.05 cents into a special fund for special use, special projects. not for the recurring funding of our operation. This is not recurring money. It's a one-time deal whenever it happens.
And I guess that's kind of lends to my question. If the 254,000 is what if I'm looking at this figure correctly, is that would be monies that instead of getting rebated to the company from the parish, that they would get that and put that in an account for y'all, as opposed to that .05 cents coming out of some other fund from this project for them, to go into y'all's funding. If we're giving up the 45 cents and y'all, we're still giving up the 50 cents is basically what it boils down to, but y'all taking 5 cents of it.
Well, we're putting it on
put into account for y'all.
in the parish finance office that you have control over.
That's the key issue.
Councilman Moore.
We don't lose control.
I guess Councilor Johnson,
That's not one of the things that when we had talked about this kind of stuff, or at least when I had talked about it in the past, the thing was that that's still getting this money through as a rebate through us, as opposed to them providing funding out of the company for whether it be one-time project expenditures or some kind of continual funding with these things to help minimize what it's going to cost us to provide funding for AEDC, going back when AEDC was put in. And I wasn't here when that happened, but from everything that I've heard was that sooner or later, somewhere down the line, AEDC was going to be not as much of an impact on the parish funding or parish finances as what it has started out to be. And that hasn't been realized. And I think one of the things that we had talked about was finding a mechanism to make that happen. And I want you to know, it doesn't look like that's basically what's happening here. It kind of looks like we're still giving them the half-cent rebate, and instead of the company taking full advantage of that half-cent, they're going to take a nickel out of that and rebate it and put it in a pot for y'all to use on different projects. Now, we may still have control over what that's spent on, but it still is basically going into the same pile. It's not accomplishing what I would like to see us do, which is somewhere down the line with these projects, some other funding come about to provide y'all with additional funding that relieves us with some of the budget ties that we have to AEDC.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
You know, this is a step, Councilman. It's an initial step that we're making. It's not the silver bullet that's going to replace, our requiring funding from the general fund. We saw this as an opportunity to make a single step to where that we can receive some funds that would offset future requirements. We're continuing to look at a source of recurring income. So we have some things on the table, I'm sorry. We have some things on the table now. I can't really talk about the specifics of it, but we have some things where we hope that we can get a source of recurring funds. But we realize this is not it.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Bill.
Are we the only ones participating in this rebate, or is anybody else participating in the rebate?
At present, the city of Gonzales has participated, or has made an offer, actually 2 offers, to participate in this program.
In addition to what we're doing? Or is that going to be?
No, it's in
Not
projects that are strictly in the city.
I might clarify that.
That's not on this project.
This project is strictly in the parish, so, the parish is the only one being asked at this point in time. We will at some time talk to the sheriff, but we talk to him individually.
That goes back to another question that we've been talking about for years, is that we've been bearing the brunt of all this stuff and trying to get other people on board to share some of these rebates, and so where it's not so much of a hit on parish government. Again, I'm not necessarily against this. I'm not against growth in the industry and that type of thing, but again, we're bearing the brunt of this, 100% of it, and sooner or later, that's got to come to an end. Somebody else has got to step up to the plate and participate in this, because we're giving up all the incentives here.
Well, let me say that the sheriff has participated in the past. He's just chosen to not make that public.
I understand that, but when, again, we're dealing with, we participated in all the projects, and other entities have only participated in one or two. And I mean, I'm not trying to put them on the spot, I'm just basically saying from our standpoint of view, or my standpoint of view is that we can't continue to bear the brunt of 100% of this.
Mr. Kulak?
Yeah, Bill and Mike, just to make things clear, I know in the past that what Benny was talking about is endowment partners, whatever you want to call it, and possibility even private organizations, businesses, whatever, making some contributions into economic development within Ascension Parish. And within certain boundary lines, that's good, and some boundary lines, it's not good. But this incentive that you're looking with this .05 right now is based on going into a collection to be controlled by the parish, but it's for incentives on future projects, whether it be feasibility, whether it be anything. Real quickly, is do you foresee this .05 being used to work within your operating budget?
But that's not what we're recommending, because it's a source of non-recurring income.
Thank you.
So we're putting it,
Councilman Moore?
Well, the way I look at it is, essentially, if they wanted to come to us as it stands today before this program, we would probably approve this half cent as is. They would come to us trying to request more money to close a particular deal, be it some kind of road that needs to come through, some kind of feasibility study, et cetera. We would then have to, decide whether or not we were going to fund that, which would be additional funding. This is essentially setting up the fund for them to have this pot of money that they could use for those kind of things, which still has to come to us, but it's basically the company that is getting this rebate is now starting to, the companies that would get this rebate would start to fund economic development. So, I mean, I think that's, they're actually they're obtaining a benefit in coming here, so I think they should, chip in a sense, to the mission of economic development, since that's part of what is luring them here in the first place. And, as for the recurring revenue, I think that is something that needs to move forward, and I know Mr. Dawson, as he alluded to, is working on things of that nature, but this, payment in lieu of taxes, for example, that's something that's more of a steady, recurring revenue stream. This stuff like this is going to come to us haphazardly, just kind of depend. Luckily, the economy's been good, and it's coming to us. We've been getting a lot of these. That may not always continue, but the fact that there would be a little bit less of a perhaps burden on us, and we'd still have the control of the funds, all the same process, going to the Board of Directors, AEDC, coming to Finance, coming to Council, for us to even decide to spend it, makes me feel a whole lot more comfortable with it. And I think it's creative and could help close some deals, so thanks.
Councilman Turner?
Just have a quick comment about it. I think there maybe should be some type of cap on the amount they get per project, or, because what is y'all total operating budget for last year?
including all sources of funds?
Yes.
381? Don't hold me to that number, I don't have it.
In a range
That
of
that sounds about right.
Yeah, no, see, for this project, they'll get $200,000. I just think that, a certain amount of, with a project that's really large, there should be a cap on how much they're getting. So I think that 0.05% should be capped at maybe, I don't know what number, but just, depending on the size of the project, it should be capped. They only get this much. It shouldn't just be a number to infinity, being the larger the project is, the more money they get.
Keep in mind, this one's very sizable.
Yeah, I understand. That's why.
Billion
Yeah, that's why I'm saying, this pretty much take care of their budget for the year for the most part. So I think there should be some type of cap, because they have a good year, they bring in 2 or 3 large projects and a whole bunch of smaller projects. How much money do they really need?
Can I clarify one thing?
Sure.
The cash flow on this is that we'll get this over a 2 or 3, maybe 4-year period. So this is not the project's approved, we won't get $254,000. So as they spend, the construction schedule on this one, I think, is 4 years. So there'll be this process of them paying the sales tax and accumulating over in finance, and we'll get that dribbled to us over a 3 or 4 year period. Now, it won't be dribbled to us. It'll go to the parish. So in effect, you've got 0.55 of your 1 cent sales tax. It's going to be kept in the parish. 0.45 will go to the company. And then we're asking you to take that 0.05 of that 55 and to please put that in a fund for us where we can use that on a request type basis to the council.
Councilman Shake Snyder.
When you're dealing with capital projects, which is what ends up happening to support for infrastructure, for incentives for businesses to come in, one road that helps alleviate traffic congestion and helps incentivize somebody from coming in here, might be another $1 billion project, is a very good investment in this parish. And it keeps this council from having to go back and dip it into the general fund to pay for that. As we getting to know right now, 200,000 or 300,000 doesn't go very far when you get into any type of capital improvements, whether it be a water line, whether it be a small sewer plant to assist them or incentivize to get these plants to give people in the parish jobs. This is outside monies that coming in, that's generating jobs that enable these family-owned businesses to operate and be successful. So these are money generators, and I think it's a creative way to get money to put seed money back. We can take this money and they can invest it into matching funds for grants. They might be able to turn that money into a substantial amount of money, and whether it be an extra turn lane on the bridge road or something that's going to move traffic or other type of capital programs that you have, I think it's going to be a big benefit, and that's money we'll get back. So I'm glad they're looking for creative and unique ways to generate money. If you look at any other economic development programs throughout this state or around the country, there's usually a fairly substantial pool of monies that go into incentivizing people for future projects. So this is nothing that's new. It's a creative way of getting that money there. Usually it's surprised by the local governments. So I think this is a good way to creatively do something that's not going to impact the people at all. So.
Councilman Wilson.
When the fund is created, are there going to be any restrictions on it that would keep it from, let's say we have a year, I mean, right now we're benefiting from one of our best sales tax years ever, but 3-4 years down the road, we don't have that, and we do have an issue when it comes time at the end of the year that the general fund, we have some other things that need to be pulled out that would be able to, we have there is a balance in that fund that we would be able to use for some of your yearly funding. Maybe not set it to say it's for every year, but I mean, would some of that money be able to use in a situation where it's needed for our yearly amount to be given?
I would think so. I think that these funds certainly could be used as gap funding were it necessary. I mean, that would have to come through the channels from the AEDC board to the finance committee to the council.
So we would be restricted in it if they would have to request that? Yes. We wouldn't be able to, as the council say, that's the only funds that we're going to be able to give that year, is what you're saying. So we are restricted on whether or not we can use that for their funding mechanism.
Well, I think that, I'm speaking for Mike now, and I don't mean to do that, or for Bill, but I would think if it was shut down or asked for money, they would probably ask. Councilman Lambert?
Yeah, what is the recommendation from administration on that? I know y'all have some.
Well, of course, these type of projects are very important to the parish. The president did not give me any indication as to which direction that he supported, but he definitely supports any type of other funding that would aid in providing dollars for economic development and not have to come through the normal channel. So if there's a creative method of doing so, that's something that he's looking at supporting.
So they're agreeing that to use some of this money for operation of economic development?
No, that's not what I heard.
No, that's not. No, that's not what I'm saying, using for operation, because my understanding is this is for special projects, for other things that needed to be done in order to attract a particular entity to come here. There may be certain type of studies that would be required that, to try to draw a company here, and that's what the funding was for, because my understanding was not for recurring operation.
Councilman Lowe.
To further hone in on Ken's point, it got me thinking about this being a billion-dollar project. You know, if, for example, we have a multi-billion-dollar project come in here, I hope we don't have a cap personally, because I'd like to see this fund get up to be, you know, $1 million or what have you, because if we have a future multi-billion-dollar project that hinges on needing a road, needing a sewer plant, needing a water line, what have you, I mean, I'm going to support that project, you know, no matter what. I think that the gain on that project far outweighs, you know, the initial expenditure. And so, as opposed to coming out of road money, coming out of our general fund, the fact that we have this fund sitting there for those kind of reasons, I think is an example of forward thinking. And so, you know, should one last thing, I mean, should we ever have some kind of massive recession, you know, we go through the budget process, we end up cutting things as we, you know, did a couple of years ago, but let's say it's dramatic, you know, that it would come through the normal budget process, we would decide, you know, at that point with the funding for ADC, and as the chairwoman said, I'm sure that ADC would come and ask us to, at that point, being an emergency, dip into it, but I think that's, you know, I don't think that's going to happen. I think we shouldn't be short-sighted on it. I think we need to save it for these mega opportunities.
Councilman Johnson.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I want to make sure that I'm not objection to the fund that you're creating here. I just want to make sure that we don't lose focus. To me, I think that's not a bad idea, and like Councilman Shake Schneider said, it's thinking outside the box and getting some funding in there for different projects like that. But the long term, the big thing for me is that we figure out some way for some recurring funds that provides for additional funding or supplemental funding, however you want to state it, for operation of AEDC. But the other concern that I've been expressing for at least 3 or 4 years now is that somewhere down the line, we need to work something out with the other taxing authorities within the parish that before these things are brought to us, we understand what the breakdown is going to be as far as who's going to take what part of it, whether we take all of one project to a certain dollar amount, and whether the school board or the sheriff's office takes the other one. It's relevant to me, but as far as the parish government continuing to bear the brunt of all of these things needs to change. And somewhere down the line, and I'm not sure where it is for me, but you know, it's going to start losing my support. Not that I don't agree with or don't like the economic development. I think we need that, and it's important to have that. But we're bearing the brunt of all of this, and somewhere down the line, that's got to split. That's got to move. And so, you know, each one of us are going to have to make up our own mind as to where that line is. But that's my concern with it.
Let me remind you of one thing, that a project like this, for example, you know, my understanding is that the parish government, you know, you get most of your revenue from sales tax, and you get a small millage. And so when you say, you know, the other agencies don't bear any of these costs, there's a 10-year industrial tax exemption on this, and they pay 0 property taxes for 10 years. So they're going to give up 100 mills. You know, the parish, these other agencies in the parish going to give up 100 mills for 10 years, which, I'm sorry I don't have that number in front of me, but when you're talking about, you know, $1,200 million, it's a significant sum.
So in addition to the half cent that we're giving up all our property taxes as well?
Correct. But you don't have a
2.86 mils.
That's, I mean, the state's doing that to us. That's not us bearing that.
No, well, you're bearing it, but you didn't
well,
make
right.
the decision.
Well, that's something we don't have a choice in,
That's correct.
is my point. I mean, I understand what
Yeah.
you're saying. I'm not, not trying to be to the point of where other folks aren't bearing the brunt of some of this, but as far as coming in and doing incentives that we've been doing that's been presented to us, other than one or two projects, it's been us.
Mr. Johnson, the other thing you need to keep in mind too is if you go back to the sales tax, anything that's bonded is not on the table. That's a state law. So schools and drainage are off the table. So they can't participate by law.
These are some of the things, Councilman, that we're working on. And like I said, we're looking at some other sources of revenue. This is, again, a step. We think that it's something that's positive, that we could use. Let's say, for example, the film industry. I mean, we all would like to see that expanded in Ascension Parish. This is our economic development team right here, these two people. And so we just don't have, if we wanted to decide, for example, to make an effort to expand our services and try to attract more from the film industry, then we could come to you, and there was something in this funding, we could come to you and say, we'd like to use $100,000 next year and expand our services, try to attract more film, and then, report on that to you like a grant. And in a way, that would be, a operating expense, but yet it would be something that, maybe would pay dividends in the end.
Right.
Councilman Joseph.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I guess we need to make this in some type of ordinance or something so we can have this a bonding. So we, at least every year, we know that would be the guidelines for it. We have to make some guidelines for that funds if we're going to adopt this. Really put it on the books, because 4 years from now, they may want to use it for something else that we never heard before, but we didn't think about it and use it. Like you say, if you want to use it for administration, well, that fund would not be for that. We put guidelines on it, what it's going to be for. In the resolution or something. But we need to make some type of rule, because we right now, we're about to adopt something, but we really don't have no guidelines for it. We're just talking about it in discussion right now. So I think we need to put something to protect us down the road also.
Madam Chairman, can I address
Certainly.
that? I don't want to put words in your council's mouth, but our discussions with Mr. Parrington about this issue the other morning, he said the exact thing you just said. There needs to be an enabling ordinance with all the I's dotted and T's crossed, correct, O'Neill? Okay.
And that will come, Councilman Joseph, after we make a decision here in finance and move on to the council. Absolutely.
Just make sure we don't forget it down the road, because we have a tendency to forget stuff.
Mr. Parrington will not let us forget it. Councilman Lambert.
Mike, I just want to make sure that we have this 100% guarantee that we're going to have, everything will be locally bought in this parish, because I know there's been other billion-dollar companies that said, hey, look, we're going to come in and invest. You give us this incentive, we're going to invest everything in your parish. From dirt work to building materials, you've got that in, you're going to get this in writing, huh?
Mr. Lambert, I really don't see any way possible to do that and to enforce it.
You can put it in their agreements that they will
Make every attempt.
make every attempt to do it, but it cannot be part of the agreement.
It's illegal.
Yeah, you can't force them to do that.
Well, we're back again. I know you're trying to do the
I
best
agree
you
with
can
you.
do. I know you
I wish you could.
I know.
Well, and some services are not available.
It leaves a bad deal, but I know you're working as hard as you can, and I appreciate you.
Councilman Sadler.
Yes, Madam Chairman, and I'll try to be very brief. The hour's getting late, gentlemen. I assume, and I'm looking ahead here, in the next item, you guys for Project Oriole are going to be asking to put monies again into, if we were to approve, HappyCon, this EDCF fund. And it looks to me like this project, correct me if I'm wrong, is maybe about half the size of the one on the table, in which case, going back to Councilman Turner's point about a cap, this would be a substantial amount of money with just these two combined relative to your entire operating budget. This is a lot of money, folks. I just want to point that out. I'm not asking a question or anything.
Do we have a motion to accept the incentive recommendation and move it forward to the council?
I have I just want to ask one
Sure,
We can always
O'Neill.
get to the details of the agreement. This is a completely quality, all these jobs are quality jobs, all 55?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I want to know.
In this case.
That's fine.
Have a motion by Councilman Shakespeare,
Second.
second by Councilman Lohr. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Any objections? Motion passes. Item number 10, Mike, you may proceed.
Yes, ma'am. Again, running down through our checklist, is this is Project Oriole. Is it competitive? Yes. There are sites in Canada and in the U.S. that are under consideration in addition to Ascension Parish. You see the project, this is a little bit larger employer, about 225 jobs, with estimated annual payroll of about $70 million. You see the gross local product there for the first 10 years is over $1 billion. Now, I think that the curious amongst you would say, well, how can this one, the gross local product on this one be twice as much as the other one? And the reason is because of the jobs. You got 55 jobs on the other one and 225 on this one. So that's what drives that gross local product number, is people earning wages and spending money in the parish. Construction impact, 400, with about 58 million. You see the capital investment profile, about $510 million. Inventories of $1 million a month, et cetera. See the bottom line number, and again, we have done the math and reduced the hard cost by 25% to be a little more realistic on our projection. The bottom line being the recommendation of ADC Board is that you rebate 0.45 cents of the sales and use tax, which equates to about $1.4 million, and the additional 0.05 cents going to the Economic Development Corporation Fund.
Any questions?
So moved, Madam Chairman.
I have a motion by Councilman Lambert.
Second.
Second by Councilman Oliver. Any discussion? Any objections? Having heard none, the motion passes. There I'm getting my bang again. All righty. It's getting late. Number 11, proceed, Ms. Deeds.
Is this a quarterly report?
This is your quarterly report.
Report to the Finance Committee as required. You can see the activity summary is incredible, still incredible amount of activity. 51 projects we're talking to in one form or another, with over $10 billion in potential investment. As you see, that this time last year there were only 21, not only 21, but 21 projects. We've had 2 announcements so far in the parish this year, one being Project Apple, or BASF, the other being the Tanger Outlets expansion. We've got a bunch of announcements pending. You can see there Ascension, St. Elizabeth Hospital, Project Clearview, which is the operation that's going to take over the former Walmart up here and turn it into a bowling alley and arcade. It's actually construction underway, but they haven't chosen to make a public announcement. Emerson, everybody's read about that, is poised to do the deal over on Orshroth Road. Westlake Vinyls, you made that commitment to them, and we feel very positive they're going to move forward on that project. Methanex, they are in the final stage of their due diligence. They're waiting on their environmental permits to be issued, and once those are completed, they will make a formal decision and announcement, and we think that'll be in our favor. Oriole, of course, we just talked about. Project Greenleaf, this project is delayed. We've been working on this for months. Unfortunately, the company has delayed the decision. I'm not going to make a call on which way it's going to go. Happy Corn, we talked about already. Patron is a small company, but they all count. It's an existing firm that's going to add about 12, 15 jobs down in Geismar. You see our business retention and expansion program, calling program is continuing on. Film, we have had one meeting with the key stakeholders in the parish about what to do about promoting the parish for film location. That includes the tourism group, along with both chambers and others. And we're going to have another, as soon as the the Tourist Commission hires somebody, we're going to kick that off again and go back and see what needs to be done. Just a couple of other things. We had a good year in the legislature.
Sorry. For a bad legislative year, economic development had a pretty good year. Couple of highlights. We've now got a way to incentivize corporate headquarters that we didn't have before by rebating some of their costs over a 5-year period. The corporate income tax apportionment has been, that already existed, but it was getting ready to expire, and they continued it, basically rewarding companies for generating sales in a Louisiana-based operation. Quality jobs, very important incentive for us on a certain case-by-case basis for special projects. That rebate, which is now 5 or 6%, can go to as much as 15% of payroll over a 15-year period. And then the final one, there is a law that allows the abatement, the 10-year abatement of ad valorem taxes for non-manufacturing. So that was passed by the legislature. As you can see there, they put a lot of restrictions on it, as much as every entity in the parish that receives ad valorem taxes has to approve it, even if the project is not in their jurisdiction. So if you had a project in the parish that you wanted really bad and decided you want to do this, you'd have to get the permission of the 3 municipalities along with the sheriff and others receiving taxes. So it's a little bit cumbersome, but that's what the legislature saw fit to do, and we got to live with it. So that concludes our report, unless you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Mike. I don't think anybody has any questions. Moving right along, item number 12. Ms. Sharon Morris.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having us. I'm with the Ark of East Ascension, and these are some of the people that serve on the board, and the executive director, and the business office manager. What is COEA? COEA is the Ark of East Ascension. We provide services for individuals in our community with mental and physical disabilities so that they can live productive lives here in our community and does not have to live in an institution. What are the future plans for this organization? The Ark of East Ascension Day program is at its full capacity. In 2009, we added to the existing facility to accommodate 75 individuals, and right now we're at our full capacity. We are in the process of planning for a new facility. We are going to try to build a school this year. What should you expect from Dancing for a Cause? It's a fundraiser that we do every year to raise money for individuals. We pair up a celebrity with a professional, and we raise money. And with your ticket, you also get refreshments. Who's dancing this year? The celebrities are Gonzales Fire Chief Tracy Norman, Trina Edwards, the wife of the former Governor Edwin Edwards, Stephen Elaine with Cox Communication, Christy Bourgeois, she's the principal of Santa Moss Middle School, Mike Brutello, Domain Design, Charlotte Guidry, creative genius of instrumental design, Matt Graves, Momentive Chemical Plant, Heather McCullen, the Advocate, Arthur Scallon, E-Tail, Linda Shine, GSA, Kelly Swarm, Cardwell Banker One, Allison Hudson, the editor of the Donaldsonville Chief. I'm your chairperson, and the parish president, Tommy Martinez, is our honorary chair this year. Hosting the event this year is JoJo Newsom with Q106 and attorney Matt Pryor. We're here this evening requesting an appropriation of funds to be released and an additional $5,000 to help us to assist individuals in our community with developmental disabilities to help them help themselves. We are not requesting a handout, just a helping hand to keep our citizens living and working in the community. Our mission statement is to enhance the quality of life for individuals with disabilities and their families through services and advocacy that support choice, independence, and dignity. So this evening, we're going to ask you to help us to enhance our mission statement. And we ask that you would please release the appropriations of the $5,000 that's already available and give us an additional $5,000 so that we can complete the new building that we're going to try to build.
Ms. Gwynn, can you confirm that we have a $5,000 appropriation in the budget already?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so this would be an additional $5,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much for coming and for your presentation and for what you do in our community. Gentlemen, does anyone have any questions?
Is this a one-time additional 5,000? I know every year y'all come for 5.
I want to say yes, but, we just never know at this moment, because we're having so many budget cuts, every year budget cuts, and what we're trying to do is fill in the gap. And we're just asking everyone in Ascension Parish, this council, and anyone that's out there listening, if you can help in any way possible, please, we're asking that you just look at what we're trying to do here. We're not asking for something to just have fun, but we're asking for something to help someone that cannot help themselves.
Ms. Morris, how many funds are raised? What's the dollar amount of your fundraiser? What do you?
Last year, I think we raised like 70,000. The year before, I think it might have been 35, and the year before, it might have been 10 or 15. Now, each year is growing because the event is just getting bigger and bigger, but we do need money to pay for certain things to get the event on the road. We have to pay for stage, the lighting, the sound, food. Well, this year, the food is actually being donated by Mike Anderson, Chip Robert. So every year, people are pitching in and helping out. But we want to build that classroom this year so we can continue to educate our individuals.
I'll make that motion for the 5,000 as an additional 10,000 altogether.
I have a motion by Councilman Johnson and a second by Councilman Todd Lambert to authorize the additional $5,000 together with the initial $5,000 for a total of 10. Any questions? Any objection? Oh, excuse me, Mr.
Just want to say it's a good event and that I will be there this weekend.
Thank you so much. And his dad is going to be one of the judges this year.
Imagine that. Is he going to dance next year? You need to get him to dance next year.
Oh, I already got him. He's going to MC for me next year.
There you go.
And the event is Saturday night. The doors open at 6 o'clock. The competition starts at 7. So please come out and support us. And thank you so much.
Ms. Gwynn, do we need some kind of budget amendment for that, or we take care of that later, the additional 5,000 that's not in the budget?
If the council approves it, yes, we can take care of the budget amendment later. Yeah. All righty, let's do that. The motion passes. I didn't hear any objections, did I? Motion passes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it's at the Lamar Dixon.
Item number 13, Ms. Gwynn.
Okay.
How fast can you do this?
Wow.
You have before you your monthly sales tax report, reporting on your 3 sales tax districts, Ascension Drainage, Sales Tax District Number 1, and Sales Tax District Number 2. And they're all up. They're in a upward mode. We hope that continues. And if you look at the last column on your right, you'll see that compared to the budget, we're above the budget and from almost 10% to 12.5% for 1 and 12 for 2. So we're on a good trade. Second page is your bar chart. You can see the red represents year-to-date for 2012 compared to blue 2011, and you can see that every sector of the parish's sales tax remittances has increased. And then the third page is your normal pie chart. And, instead of depending, which we are still dependent on the petrochemical industry, but you can see that the other sectors are also increasing, so it's across-the-board increase. And the last page is the historical charts, and you can see 2012 to date compared to the other years since 2003, we're ahead of all those years, year to date. collections. So it's good news, and we certainly hope it will continue.
Thank you so much. Item number 14, Revenue and Expenditure Report. Amanda.
Good evening. Before you are your financial reports for the month of May 2012. On page 1, your total revenues are at 41.66% at 41.66% of the year. The items that are highlighted in green reflect the funds that are under the budget by 5% or more. And on page 4 of the report is an explanation of these funds. On page 2, your total expenditures are at 43.23% at 41.66% of the year. The highlighted items in green reflect the funds that are over the budget by 5% or more. And on page 5 of the report, there's an explanation for those funds. On page 3 are charts that compare both year-to-date revenue and expenditures for operating and capital to the budget. And on the last page of the report is a list of checks that we issued in May that were over $100,000, and the total of these checks was $1,949,015.28. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Don't let them ask any questions, Amanda. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you. We're moving right along. Item number 15, bid items. Ms. Jones Shivers.
On May 31st, 2012, the Purchasing Department received 8 bids for mosquito control chemicals. After review, the Purchasing Department and Mosquito Control recommend accepting the lowest responsive bid and award as follows. Adapco Incorporated, Scourge, Permanone, Flit, Golden Bear, Vectalex, and Antique. Clark Mosquito Control, Biomist, Anvil, Vectalex Clear Mineral Oil, Duet, and Altasoid Brisket. Helena Chemical, Perm X, Univar, Control 3030, Bonide, and Wisdom TC.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman, what's your name? I'm getting too tired to tell. By Councilman Johnson, and a motion, and a second by Councilman Todd Lambert. And any discussion? Any objections? Motion passes.
PVC sewer drainage pipe. On June 6, 2012, the Purchasing Department received 6 bids for PVC sewer drainage pipe. After review, the Purchasing Department and Department of Public Works recommend accepting the lowest responsive bid from Industrial Municipal Supply.
So moved.
Have a motion?
Second.
And a second. Motion by Councilman Lambert, motion by second by Councilman Satterley. Any objections? Motion passes.
3M traffic control signs. On May 31st, 2012, the Purchasing Department received 4 bids for 3M traffic control signs. After review, the Purchasing Department and Department of Public Works recommend accepting the lowest responsive bid from Vulcan Signs.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Second.
Have a motion and a second from Councilman Lambert and Councilman Walsall. Any objections? Motion passes.
3M road name signs. On May 31st, 2012, the Purchasing Department received 2 bids for 3M road name signs. After review, the Purchasing Department and Department of Public Works recommend accepting the lowest responsive bid from Traffic Control.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Motion by Councilman Lambert, a second by Councilman Johnson. Any objections? Motion passes.
Galvanized and asphalt-coated corrugated metal pipe. On June 6, 2012, the Purchasing Department received 5 bids for galvanized and asphalt-coated corrugated metal pipe. After review, the Purchasing Department and Department of Public Works recommend accepting the lowest responsive bid from Sorrento Lumber Company.
Motion.
Got a motion by Councilman Clurott, second by Councilman Lower. Any objection? Motion passes.
Powerfold X 2.0 fan with nitro seal drive installed. On June 27, 2012, the purchasing department received one bid for approximately 6 Powerfold X 2.0 fans with nitro seal drive. After review, the purchasing department and Lamar Dixon Expo Center recommend accepting the lowest responsive bid from Public Construction Incorporated.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Kluart, second by Councilman Johnson. Any objections? Motion passes.
Thank you.
That concludes that item. We'll move on to the budget amendment, item number 16.
Good evening. You have before you an ordinance for budget amendment number 2, which reads as follows. An ordinance to amend the ordinance approving, adopting, and appropriating the 2012 operating and capital budgets for the Parish of Ascension, adopted by the Ascension Parish Council on the 17th day of November 2011. Section 1. The Ascension Parish Council hereby ordains that the ordinance approving, adopting, and appropriating the 2012 operating and capital budgets for the Parish of Ascension is hereby amended, approved, and appropriated as follows. Operating budget. General fund revenues. Rebate state taxes, $50,000. Expenditures legislative. Salaries, $28,000. Professional services, $15,000. Operating supplies, $7,000. Sheriff Public Safety, probation and juvenile expense, $220,000. Appropriations. Appropriation for the Ascension Parish Tourism Commission, $25,000. Appropriation Ascension Fair Association, $25,000. Engineering, travel, $20,000. Recreation, expenditures and other financing uses, acquisitions, buildings and land, $150,500. Transfer out Oak Grove Construction from the fund balance, $40,000. Transfer out Park Construction Fund, Skate Park from the fund balance, $15,000. Lamar Dixon, revenues, rebate state taxes, $309,000. Concessions revenue, $200,000. RV rentals, $150,000. Grants, $57,000. Expenditures, salaries non-exempt, $70,000. Concessions expense, $100,000. Appropriations, $206,900. Maintenance fund expenditures, major repairs, $143,500. Capital budget, Fire District Number 1 construction, expenditures, architect, $7,500. Contract payments, $167,500. Oak Grove Construction Fund, revenue transfers in, recreation fund, $40,000. Expenditures, professional services, $16,000. Contract payments, $65,000. Park construction fund for the skate park. Revenues transfer in, recreation fund, $15,000. Expenditures, professional services, $2,000. Contract payments, $18,000.
Having heard, motion by Councilman Johnson,
Second.
second by Councilman Dempsey Lambert. Any objections? Motion passes. We have one, the chair's addition will come at this time. It is identified as 16A, and you were given, I think, paperwork on that. And Mr. Depew, if you will present that. Thank you for being with us at this late hour.
Now,
Yes.
just briefly, I just want to say that Mr. Depew is the new fleet manager from the parish. I know some of you may have not seen him or know who he is. He's tasked with looking at the goals of making sure the fleet program, the transfer from ownership to fleet, that we're on track and we're seeing the type of savings that's been indicated and looked at by the parish president, and we're on task to make sure that we realize those savings. So, again, this is Mr. Depew, who is our new fleet manager.
And Mr. Depew, if you don't get your request in early, you end up last on the agenda.
I've learned that lesson. Madam Chairman and Council, I apologize for being late with this.
However, I felt like it was important to start clearing out some of the vehicles so we can start to pay for the lease program and really get into the lease program. This is the first of many. We're trying to establish a perpetual program that as things become available, we get them into the public auction process online and process them out. So I appreciate it. I won't take any more of your time unless you have any questions.
You're not going to read all of these?
No. And this is just the first of many. I don't think there's been an auction in a year, and we're going to start moving some of the stuff out.
Right.
Make a motion to declare this property surplus.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Johnson and a second from Councilman Moore. Any questions or any objections? Motion passes.
I will always have them in advance in the future. I'll never do that again. I'm sorry you had to break your promise.
No problem. Thank you so much. It's very nice to meet you, sir.
Motion adjourned, Madam Chairman.
Do I have a problem with the second?
Unanimous second. Let's stay.